Hey guys. So my talk's a little bit different from most of the guys today because I'm more of a generalist because I like to try a load of different things. And one of the most asked questions for me since being on this journey is like, where the hell do I start? So that's really what I wanted to touch on today. Now I've got 20 minutes to do an hour's talk, so I'm going to go surface level on most of it. But hopefully you guys will have some good takeaways to know where to begin for those of you that are new to biohacking. So first of all, we've got to define what biohacking actually is. Art and science of biology, self-experimentation to take control of your health, basically. It's targeted and quantified. It's not just popping more supplements willy-nilly, and it's mimicking a natural environment in an unnatural world. Now, just to touch on Sim's talk from a minute ago, is everything he's talking about fasting and eating is based on evolutional science, I guess, where we didn't have food readily available to us all the time. So everything that I'll be talking about comes back to a natural environment in an unnatural world. It's also preventative healthcare. And it's figuring out why you have something going on and fixing it, opposed to just taking another drug or supplement for whatever reason. Most importantly, and thanks to Dave Asprey for this, it's making health fashionable. That's a key thing. It's more funky and fashionable to be healthy than it is to go out drinking and clubbing nowadays, which is absolutely why the tide is turning and it's becoming bigger and bigger. It's also important to define what biohacking isn't. True biohacking, anyway. It's not chip implants, even though I've got a glucose monitor reading my glucose all day, every day. It's not chip implants, and it's not editing genes to make your cat glow. And like the media is trying to make, I guess, belittle biohacking because it's just so powerful. And the reason why it's so powerful is because it works. This shit really works. Now, biohacking is health optimization. It's bringing in the best from all of these. It has complete flexibility to help you fix your health or be optimal. It's not in one mindset that you're restricted by a medical license. It's not with one bias. It's ego-free. It's saying, I am going to do what works, and I'm going to take control of it myself. So all of these things that you'll see around you, all of these biohacking products that come up, they are just shiny fucking toys, but good ones that I enjoy very much. But what's more important is, how do they all fit together? Like, where do we start before taking 40 or 50 different supplements a day, or having UV, IV, or red light therapy? All of these things, they all help, they do. But they're not fundamental, not yet. So every one of these fundamentals fits into 3 categories, and they are mind, body, and environment. Everything you ever need for your health optimization or biohacking journey is right here. If you want to take a photo, do that. I'm not going to run through death by PowerPoint. The bigger thing is where to start in biohacking is why. What do you want out of it? Like, why are you doing it? Is it because you want your health back, like me? Is it for longevity, because you want to live forever, because you're a billionaire and don't want to lose everything you built? Is it for peak performance, because you're running multiple companies? Or is it because it's cool? Or a combination of all of those? So it's really important you start with why. So for me, it's for health. But to know where to start, and not just based on subjective gut feeling of what your whimsical thought of the week is to really write down what you want out of it. For instance, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you've got problems with your immune system or energy or libido, mental clarity, bloating, whatever it may be, this is very flexible to any of the symptoms or anything you've got going on. Understanding what you want out of it and rating each one of those things. And this isn't for everyone to use. It's for you to work out what you should be improving. These are my particular scores. So for me, my most important things has been mental clarity and immune system. I kept on getting ill, worse and worse and worse, prescribed more and more drugs, iller and iller and iller. And as a result, my brain wasn't working. My logic was that if my brain is working, I can figure all this stuff out. So I went with mind first, immune second. So it's important that on this journey, when you've done some research, is to work with a functional medicine doctor that knows a lot of this stuff. And every other specialist and guru out there, take on board what they say, but come to your own conclusions. For me, the biggest thing that I have learned along this journey is to test and track and optimize based on that. Now, based on Dr. Ted Akakoso's work, he's a speaker at my summit, 212 IQ on a bad day, 186 on a good, as he always says, is metabolomics or intercellular medicine. And what this particular test did for me was to look at what's in the cell that shouldn't be, such as mercury, and what isn't in the cell that should be. And then figuring out how to make that happen. And then obviously working on it and tracking it to see how your improvements go. So in this test, it showed that I was high in mercury intercellular. Now I already knew this, but this test confirmed it further. So what do? I then expand it to look in, say, okay, if I've got high levels of mercury, what else have I got going on? So this is a hair mineral analysis test of toxic metals. And as you can see on the left-hand side, arsenic is very high, mercury is pretty high. And as a result of those, the deficiencies are significant. So my body isn't able to do what it should do naturally because it hasn't got the right building blocks. So I looked at many different protocols, including mercury chelation, which is a bitch, but it got my metals down. The deficiencies start writing, like going right, but it's important to work with them. So this is just an example of how to quantify before and after. As a result of doing these things, my immune system is now 9 out of 10. And I rarely get a cold, I rarely get ill from being ill every single day and not being able to leave the house once upon a time. It's going to be different for every one of you here as to what your goals are. It could be bloating, it could be mental clarity, it could be sleep. Figure it out, figure out how to track it. Here's some of the things that I measured daily. So again, I'm not going to run through all of them, but at one point I was tracking 35 markers a day, some subjective, some through tracking with particular devices, the things that are important to me. And then I could plot that on a graph to see where the correlations were and how one thing had a cause and effect on another. But all of this to one side for the minute, these are the basic things that you should do before you do anything else. And this is over the last 9 years, before I even knew what biohacking or bulletproof coffee was as a term. This is everything has led me back to this first. Optimize your sleep. Thank you, Greg, if you're here still. Optimize grounding. There's science behind grounding, specific science that reduces inflammation in the body. Get an oral microbiome test done because health starts in the mouth. Because if you haven't got the right microbiome in your mouth, your gut's not going to be right. And a good portion of people are bloated these days and they take probiotics, but they don't check their oral microbiome. Make sure that your liver's optimized based on genetic side of things, and I won't go into that. Get decent sunlight. And if you're not getting decent sunlight, optimize with vitamin D and vitamin K. Exercise every day. Longevity and lifespan increases significantly if you do, but not so much that you stress your adrenals and become ill as a result. Optimized diet, obviously, such as the bulletproof diet, that's my favorite, obviously. Optimal oxygen and breath work. Now, Wim Hof's work does so well because people aren't focusing on their breathing enough. Therefore, their basic bodily functions aren't working properly. Wim Hof method is making it funky. It's making you focus on your breath. And intermittent fasting. Thanks, Sim. I'm not going to dig into the science on all of these, obviously. The cool stuff, and yeah, sure, I have tested all of these and many more, are these. And I have people reach out to me, like one guy last week said, Tim, I want to optimize my gut. Which peptide's right? And I was like, have you done this, this, or this? And do you eat sugary crap food? I don't do any of that, and yes, I do. Okay, so peptides isn't the right way. Like, think properly here. So Every one of these also ties back to mimicking a natural environment in an unnatural world. For instance, growth hormones. If you're fasting properly and exercising properly, your growth hormones will be optimal. If you're not, they won't be. So you can inject those. I class it as a biohack. But biohacking is a mindset. So people say, well, yoga's not a biohack. Well, actually, it is if you're a biohacker, not if you're not. It's basically saying, here is a mindset to optimize myself, and these are all the cool modalities to do to biohack yourself. So if you're stressed out, your cortisol high, you're not sleeping right, blah, 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 you bring all these things together, that is biohacking. But doing one thing on its own isn't. NAD, as Sim talked about, neurofeedback, C60, molecular hydrogen, all of these things play on basic principles for the body. Even PMF and red light therapy, sunset. You don't get enough of it? Have some red light. It's a simple biohack. This is me at 31 and me at 40 after a shit ton of biohacking. I'm quite pleased with that. So this is what it can achieve if you do it right. So, why are you doing it? What you're going to do, and then research and use every specialist or every resource or every guru you can to figure out how. There's a big peer group out there. Biohacking is growing like crazy. It's a worldwide movement now. It's not just some little focal thing with some cool funky toys. So, as Dr. Ted Akikoso says, it's very simple. Sleep well, eat well, hydrate well, breathe well, move well, sun well, ground well, relate well, and love well. Here's some resources. Take a photo. That's me.